Hey everybody, it's here from VidGamiac.com. Here we are today in Mighty Mage doing our Fire playthrough. So make sure you start up the game. You're going to want to head up to the class select and we're going to choose Fire, which is going to be the one on the far left. Make sure you select that and then we're going to get into the game. Since this is going to be our first playthrough, we're going to explain the basics. You're going to want to head down to the circle, hit the A button to start the first wave. This game is sort of going to be like a twin stick shooter. Instead of using the second stick to aim and fire, you're going to hold right trigger in order to start attacking. The game should auto target for you. It's basically going to target the closest enemy to you. Now, you can use the right stick to change the targeting if you want to. However, the game is going to also auto fire for you. So as long as you have right trigger held, you should automatically start attacking the enemies. So you're going to want to focus on using the left stick to move and dodge while you're trying it to let the game's auto target shoot for you. Now, your second type of input is going to be the A button, which is going to be your dash. Keep in mind, you cannot use the dash while firing, so you're going to have to let go of right trigger before you use your dash. But the dash is going to be a great way of dodging enemies and getting out of sticky situations. So make sure you do take advantage of that if you are getting swarmed. So now that we got the controls out of the way, we're going to cover the fundamentals of the game. The game is going to be broken up in two waves. Each subsequent wave is going to add to the number of enemies, as well as introduce tougher enemies as you go along. There's going to be three basic enemies you have to worry about. First one is going to be the slime, which is going to be your common unit. Then you're going to have the bat, which is going to move slightly faster than the slimes. These two lower enemy types are going to attack you by swarming you, so your strategy to beat them is to kite them around into a train and then try to get them in a big cluster so you can take them out with fewer attacks. As you get deeper into the game, you're going to be introduced to the third enemy type, which is going to be the mage. The mage is going to come in four elemental varieties. You're going to have fire, water, earth, and lightning. They're going to be pretty much the same. They're going to stand far back and then pepper you with projectile attacks. Unfortunately, you cannot counter the projectile attacks by firing at them. You can only dodge them. They are going to have a bit of a homing effect, so they are going to follow you, and they aren't going to disappear until they hit a wall or something. Thankfully, they aren't going to move super quickly, so you should be able to have an easy time of dodging them. However, they can stack up if you are really bad at crowd control. That being said, you definitely want to focus on the two smaller enemies who are going to be trying to swarm you before you start working on the mages. So focus on the fast enemies first, and then the slower projectile enemies second, and you should be able to keep this strategy up for the entirety of the game. Now, in between each wave, you're going to have to choose between one of three power-ups. They are mostly going to be stat boosts. However, every three waves, you're going to be granted a new special ability. These special abilities are just going to be timed special attacks that are going to also be automatically fired alongside your regular attacks. So you don't really have to worry about using them. They're going to be fired automatically for you. Now, if you ever sustain any damage and you happen to make it to one of these periods between waves, you're going to have a fourth option available to you, which is going to be to heal. Every time you use one of these healing options, you're going to recover all of your health, thankfully, so you have that to look forward to. That being said, the ability to heal is not going to be available during turns where you would have to pick a special ability. They are only going to be available on turns where you get a stat boost. So make sure you try not to sustain too much damage to the point where you need to heal on one of these waves that are going to be a multiple of three. So with the fundamentals covered, we're going to move on to strategy. Most of the in-game strategy is going to revolve around how you upgrade your character. Now, because the game is going to give you three random stats to choose from, you are going to not be able to spec out a specific build. You're going to have to build it as you go along. That being said, the most optimal way of building your character is going to be like this. Make sure you avoid the two useless power-ups, which are going to be max health and movement speed. Because you are going to get full health every time you choose the ability to heal yourself, max health is not going to be super useful. And then movement speed isn't going to be super useful as well, as you are playing on a pretty small map, all things considering. So these are going to be the things you want to prioritize in this order. The most important thing you want to upgrade is definitely going to be magic damage. You always want to make sure you choose this whenever given the option to, unless you need to heal. The quicker you can one-shot these slimes and the bats, the easier time you're going to have, especially in the later waves when you're dealing with so many of them. The next important upgrade is going to be your critical chance. This is going to increase the likelihood of you landing a critical hit. So make sure you try to get that. Obviously, you want to make sure you prioritize upgrading your normal attack since you're going to land more of those than criticals. However, having a high critical hit chance is going to be useful as well. The third thing you want to upgrade is going to be your special attack cooldown. Obviously, the quicker you can cool down your special attacks, the more often you can use them, which is going to help out for tight situations, since your special attacks are going to be the big moves that are going to help with crowd control, especially up close. Then finally, the last thing on our set of priorities, which you should only choose if it's your only choice, is going to be critical damage, which is just going to increase how much damage you can get off of a critical. Your regular magic damage increase is also going to increase the amount of your critical hit, so this one is going to not be super useful. However, it is going to be more useful than movement speed or maximum health. When it comes to special attacks, pretty much you are going to want to just pick whatever sounds the coolest to you in that moment. They're all going to be slightly different on how they hit the field, the amount of damage output they do, and their cooldown period. However, they are all going to be useful in some way, so just make sure you pick whatever suits your fancy. Now, the final part of strategy we're going to discuss is going to be healing. Now, when it comes to having the ability to heal yourself, I am going to recommend you take a more conservative approach. The reason for that is any turn where you choose to heal yourself, you are giving up that turn's ability to upgrade your character, which is going to mean that you're going to go into subsequent waves way weaker than you should. So if you only have a little bit of damage on you, I am going to recommend you try to carry it with you as long as you can. Personally, I am only going to recommend healing if you go below half of your health. So just make sure you keep that in mind and then try to tough it out, as upgrading your character is going to be more important than healing constantly. So, with all of the basic gameplay fundamentals and tips out of the way, we're going to discuss the achievements. Basically, the achievements are just going to ask you to beat the game, which is just going to encompass 20 waves. So, as long as you make it to the end of wave 20, you should be good for all of the achievements concerning whatever class you are playing. Now, to get the achievements for the fire class, we are going to need to defeat at least 40 water mages. That shouldn't be a problem, even though the game is going to have randomly generated enemies. You should have way more than 40 by the time you reach the end of the game, so don't worry too much about focusing on just water mages. You need to make sure you defeat all of the enemies you encounter anyways to clear whatever wave you are on. Then we're going to get an achievement for reaching wave 18, which is going to be the third to last wave. And then finally, we should get an achievement for beating the game, which is going to beat all 20 waves. The fire class is going to be the best class to learn how to play the game, simply because they're going to have very useful power-ups. Most of the fire class's special attacks are going to revolve around the close game, so that should take care of most of the swarming type of enemies. The two power-ups you definitely want to prioritize once they pop up are going to be the Fire Blade as well as the Hammer. So if you happen to see those, make sure you try to get them right away, as they're going to watch your back for some of the swarming enemies. So take advantage of all of the benefits of using the Fire class to learn the basics of the game, and then once you get a hang of it, the other two classes should come easy as well. But that's going to pretty much cover it. Enjoy the rest of the playthrough, and then once we are back, we should be good for all of the achievements we were going for. Once we finally beat wave 20, we should get our congratulations screen, and that's going to cover the fire class. Make sure you tune in next time. We're going to cover the water class, but that's going to be it for now. And that's all there is to it.